What's up, everybody? I'm Rick.
And I'm Anna.
And welcome to our review of Baccano.
Baccano.
So, Anna, this is a bucket list channel in which we try to realize the goals and dreams that are on this bucket list. And one of those goals is to finish 101 anime. And as of now, we've been doing a few animes, Naruto, My Hero, Erased, but all of them as reactions, where we react to the episodes and put videos of that. But not all of our 101 anime that we will be watching are going to be reactions.
Because that would take us literally all the time.
Yeah, we will be 90 years old and still doing reactions. So some of these anime we're just going to watch and then do a review of. Sometimes we might review part of it, react to part of it. We're going to play around with the format as we see fit and in a case-by-case basis. You know, if there's an anime that we feel like, oh, this would be a good reaction, we'll react to it. If we feel like, oh, this is a good review type anime, we'll do that, etc. So in this case, this is going to be a review, no reactions.
And I have to say, it was a good choice, because if we were to react to this, the whole time we'd just be like, what is going on?
You think?
I would. I don't know what I would have reacted to.
We'll see exactly what you mean in a minute. So Anna, just so that everybody is caught up, this is the 5th anime on our list of 101. So
already number 5.
Repeat them quickly. Naruto/Naruto Shippuden is number 1. My Hero Academia number 2. Erased number 3, and number 4 Tower of God.
Yeah.
Almost forgot. And so this is number 5. We've already finished it, which is more than we can say about
any of the other ones, pretty much. No,
yeah.
we finished Erased too.
Oh, that's true. We also finished Erased. So that's the second one we finished out of 101. Hey, that's nice. And so before we do our review, I'm just gonna give you some info, and maybe you too if you haven't watched it, and then we will have a discussion on what we thought of it. By the way, this is gonna be full of spoilers if you haven't
spoilers
seen
everywhere.
Baccano.
And also, if you haven't seen it and you don't want to get spoiled, I invite you to go watch it and then come back to this video, because it's an interesting anime.
So, some info. Baccano, which is Italian for ruckus.
Okay, didn't know that. I did sound Italian.
Yeah, I mean, with the whole mafia team. So this is a 2007 anime directed by Takahiro Omori and produced by Brainspace and Aniplex. The anime has 16 episodes that were adapted from light novels of the same name written by Ryogo Narita and illustrated by Katsumi Enami. The first 13 episodes of this 16 episode anime aired from July 2007 to November 2007 on Wow Wow.
Okay.
It's a Japanese pay-per-view channel, and the last 3 were released with the DVDs as OVAs or specials. The plot of this anime, you were mentioning earlier that you would have been confused if we watched it live as reactions. Let me just give you a quick plot synopsis, and maybe people at home would see why you would get confused. So, this story is told out of order, and the story spanned 3 consecutive years of the Prohibition era America, so 1930, 31, 32, during which 3 seemingly unconnected events occur. 2 bottles of an immortal elixir are passed down around Manhattan by gangsters who believe it's alcohol. That's one of the events. A supposed monster massacres members of 2 gangs attempting to hijack a train, the Flying Pussyfoot. That's the second event. And a missing man is tracked down by his sister and a gang. That's the third event. And everything seems unconnected, but as you watch, you realize that it's all connected, man.
You realize it like quite
quickly,
because it's the same people that you see in all of these events. It's just that you don't know how are they connected to each other, and it feels a lot of times like you're dropped in the middle of a story. And there's also, they don't mention that, but there's also the like a story in the past, like 200 years before.
Yeah, but that's not like
it's not part of the main story. Yeah.
So that was pretty much what I had for you, but Anna, let's begin our conversation with just general appreciations or thoughts. Did you like this anime?
Oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it, I have to tell you. I thought it was so interesting, even though, as I was saying, I was very confused watching it, but you do get a feeling that it's okay, it's gonna be clear, and it becomes clear, like as you keep watching, you understand things. I feel like it's well connected, you know. I like the style specifically, like more than anything.
Yeah, that 1930s vibe.
Yeah, like that gangster mystery, like murder mystery kind of thing going on, you know, that theme. Also the characters, like I feel like they're all so like slick and jazzy, and
this is a character anime. This is definitely a character that shines not only by the story and the storytelling, but the characters.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I really liked that from like the beginning, and as the story was being told, I did have this feeling that, oh, this is just like one like compressed story. It's almost like watching a movie, you know? Like it's not like those type of animes where you're like, oh, second season is coming out next year, you know? You finish it and you're like, this was it.
Yeah.
You know? This is the story that they had to tell, and they didn't stretch it, and they didn't like fill it with too many things. It's like it's a well like compressed story.
And even though some might say, oh, there are stuff that could have been, fleshed out, but I think two of the characters, Gustav and Carol, who are kind of the narrators.
They're like the narrators, observers.
Yeah, exactly. They point that out. They are very meta characters. And they point out that, you know, even though it feels like it might not be over, that's the type of story this is. That's life, you know. There's not necessarily an ending. Use your imagination to kind of guess where these characters are going from now on.
Right.
I also loved it. I thought it was great from beginning to end. And like you said, you know, at first you're thinking, what's happening? You know, we're in 15 different storyline over 3 different years. But very quickly you realize that, oh, everything is going to end up connecting. And having Gustav and Carol there in the first episode kind of being the ones who introduce you to this...
To the story,
To the story in that meta way, you know, by talking about, oh, so who's the main character? Is it this guy? Is it that guy?
I really like that part, you know.
Yeah.
Because it makes you realize that the way we tell stories in general, and of course the way stories in animes, in mangas, in books are told, you always have a point of view, you know, of that character that is either the main character, sometimes you have the point of view of the antagonist, but you always have a point of view, whereas this, it feels like we were watching the story from outside, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in which you're thinking, oh, this is the story of this guy. No, this is the story, like, of this story. Of, like, all the people involved in it. Exactly.
And then they talk about, oh, so... what is also the beginning point of this story? Is it 200 years ago? Is it 3 years ago? Is it right now? Maybe we're the main characters.
I really like that aspect that they put there, like that like a little twist there, that like maybe the story begins like with us because we're telling the story now.
Yeah.
You know, like this is when the story begins because this is like our story of us like getting involved or getting interested into that story, you know. This is like, it's a little bit story within a story.
Yeah. So general appreciation, we both loved it.
Definitely.
But it seems like we're already into that section, so let's talk about the story.
Okay.
I really love, like, plot aside for now, the way they told the story, the way that we just talked about how Gustav and Carol are there to kind of break the mold that you're used to in storytelling. You know? This is not linear, and there's no main character per se. Like everything that you'd be used to in a story, even at the end when we finished the last episode, like you were making a comment about like, oh, all these guys are bad guys, and I was like, are all these guys good guys? You know.
It feels like they're all just like people who do maybe questionable things, you know?
Exactly. So you could kind of, you know, put the pieces together of the puzzle together and make a linear story, but I feel like that would be...
I feel like if you were trying to like put the pieces together and make a linear story, you would definitely pick a side. You'd have to pick a side. You know, like whose story are you telling? Now? Which is what the anime is trying not to do.
Yeah, and by doing it in that way, not only it's not chronological, but also it doesn't follow any one person.
Yeah.
It really shatters any expectation you would have had for how the story is going to end.
Right.
Which is where I want to go now. The story, the plot, pretty surprising, even though there are elements that you know from the beginning because it's out of order. So you know that like Lad survives because that's one of the first things you see. But still, the whole time I was wondering, but how? How does it end up in that situation, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what did you think of the fact that some things were revealed, some things were not, and then, like, did you feel like it spoiled some of the moments?
Not so much. You know, there are those movies, I've seen movies like that, where, like, the main character would start the narration, you know, of the story by saying, 1 year from now I'll be dead, or something like this, you know? It just because you know where it's gonna end, it doesn't take away from the surprise of how
it
doesn't get there. Yeah, exactly. Because also knowing that often would make me think like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like, is he gonna die now? Is he not gonna die now? Like, he's in a tough situation. How is he gonna get out of it? You know, something like this. Because you kind of expect to see him at the end. So then you're thinking like, oh, how is he not dead after this? You know, and you keep thinking about that.
In terms of plot, so what did you think of the story they were telling? Because like we said, this is following the story of basically these immortal beings.
Yeah.
From the moment they become immortal, if we want to start the story in 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Up to, you know, the 1930s, early 1930s. And these different immortal beings. There's a lot of them. So what did you think of that storyline?
Like, I thought that they had a very interesting premises, you know. To me, it feels like they're kind of like two different components. You know, just like the story of the train story, right? And the events that occurred there.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you have the story of like the immortals. I feel like you could have taken these characters with this like particularity of them being immortal and made any story with them, you know?
Yeah.
It just so happens that they fall into this situation. And if you think about it, they're immortal, right?
Yeah.
So you could have told any story of them at any point in their like very long lifespan that they've lived and up until that moment, you know?
It's because this was a peculiar event in their life.
Yeah.
And so we're telling that story.
Exactly. And I really like how characters that are not immortal also fall nicely into place.
Yeah.
Into the story, you know?
And there's also the whole time that kind of guessing game of who's actually immortal.
Yeah, because you don't actually know all of them. You don't know whether someone is or not immortal.
Yeah.
And,
like
makes you like raise an eyebrow.
Isaac, which I love, the Bonnie and Clyde couple. The whole time you're kind of guessing, are they immortal? Are they not? And it's revealed at the very end that they are, but they don't even know.
Even they didn't know that, which to me was like, oh, that scene, like when they are way into the future.
Yeah.
And they realize, like after more than 50 years, hey, we haven't aged. I'm like, what? Took you a while to figure out.
Yeah, 7 years in 2001.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's insane.
One other big part of the storytelling is not only that it's out of order, that it follows different people, but also that everything, at the beginning at least, seems to be unconnected. Seems to be like random stories of different people doing different things.
Right.
Until you realize that it's all connected. Sometimes not that directly. Sometimes, you know, people were even unaware of what's happening with the train thing. You know, like the Gondor family, they don't really care whatever happened in the train.
Yeah.
What did you think of that as a storytelling device also?
Like, you know, I feel like it's a kind of a common theme, right? When you have different like storylines like this, or maybe more like different, the focus is on different elements, right? To see how something that happens over here influences something that happens over there, even if the characters never actually meet.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like a chain reaction. Like, yeah, exactly, exactly. So that's always interesting to see how like one thing, one element, like one character doing something here, then like gets out of here and like does something else on the way and then ends up here, and how that
and then that last character has no idea that
like where that comes from, you know,
Exactly,
where
yeah.
like how did it all start, you know.
I really love that. I think more so than the fact that it was out of order and you're trying to like piece it together by yourself, but the fact that a lot of the things seems unconnected, and I was trying to figure out, wait, how does this connect in the
Right.
end to the overall storyline?
And also the fact that the characters are sometimes trying to figure that out.
Yeah,
Like you were talking earlier about the Bonnie and Clyde, what were their name, Isaac and Miriam.
yeah,
Like they actually get to meet most of, or a lot of the characters before the train event, like in random situations everywhere, you know.
yeah,
So like I really love that we don't see that from the beginning. We see it like towards the middle of the anime maybe. But then you realize how like the other characters they never knew each other, run into that situation, and the two of them are there and they're like, oh, you know them, you know them, oh, I know them too. Like, you know, it's funny and it's interesting because also the way they make the characters, like the way they make these connections is very logic, you know. Like it doesn't feel like it's pushed or like it's there just for the purpose of it, like of them meeting, but rather it's very logic. It feels like, oh yeah, this totally could have happened, you know.
One last thing I want to talk story-wise. So I was saying the anime is split, you know, with the first 13 episodes airing on TV and then the last 3 are being direct to DVD. Did you think those last 3 episodes because after 13 it kind of felt like the end, you know.
I thought it was the end when I saw it.
You see Isaac and Miria in the future and 2001, which is our past, I guess. It's not, but after that there's still more story to tell. Did you feel like that was overdone, that wasn't necessary, or did you like the addition?
I didn't feel like it was overdone. I felt, okay, so first of all, I want to talk a little bit about episode 13, which when I watched it, it felt like the end of the story.
Yeah.
And there was one particular thing that I liked about it, which is that it feels like the end. Well, there is that one last scene at the very end with Isaac and Miriam in 2001, but there's like a very short scene. But before that, it feels like the whole story ends when like the group becomes friends, which happens actually before the train situation. So I really like that idea that like, oh, if you were to tell a story, like this is the beginning and also the end of the story, you know, like this is the moment that brings everything together,
when they all become immortal.
Yeah, exactly, when they all became immortal, and also when they all like came together, right? And everything that happens afterwards, like they split again and then like they go their separate ways and like fate brings them back together
again. They meet again. Yeah.
But it feels like this is the moment that connects everything, you know? Like, it's like the center, you know? The gravity center that pulls everything in. Like, that's how it felt to me. And I really like that. So I felt like the way the whole thing ended after episode 16, or at episode 16, I feel like it didn't have that impact anymore on me, you know? But, that being said, it's kind of in line with what Gustav was saying, that there's really no end to a story. You know, there's no end and there's no beginning. After these events that we speak of, other things happen, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this character's life doesn't end here, you know? It's not like after this they don't do anything anymore. So we follow them through other events that are related to what happened during the incident. And how that incident impacted their lives, like moving on. Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't have said it better. This is exactly what I was going to say, because as I was watching those extra 3 episodes, I was kind of like, you know, this is nice, but I felt like it was over before. But then when they're having that conversation exactly about that, like there is no ending, there is no beginning, and if you feel like this shouldn't end, then use your imagination to fill in the gap. If you feel like this should have ended, then you're not understanding that at any point that could have been the ending, at any point that could have been the beginning, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
This is the story of these people, and it'll keep going on.
One element that I also really liked in those extra 3 episodes is Sylvia coming back. Because we don't actually see her at all. We saw her on the ship like 200 years ago. And then she just comes back, like randomly runs into, I I don't remember his name. Another one.
It's the same for Elmer. We don't see him.
Yes, Mr.
Since the ship.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, the two of them.
Yeah.
They just run into each other. So it makes you realize like the events of what could be considered the beginning of this whole story, which happens on the ship 200 years ago. Like things happen everywhere that are still influenced by what happened back then. You know, it's not just this story. Other people also have their stories that have been influenced by that, you know, and it's completely unrelated to what we saw there. It's just that this event had more like of a weight.
Yeah. Let's move on to talking about the characters.
Yeah.
So, like, did the fact that everything was also split between so many characters make you care less about any one character?
Not so much that I didn't care, more so that I didn't have any expectations of any particular character surviving or dying, you know? And I didn't care so much for that. I felt like if any character were to die, it would just be part of the story.
Yeah.
Because that's the focus here, right? Is the story. So it's not like I didn't care about the characters. I found all the characters, like, most of the characters, like, really interesting. And as you said, you know, they have, like, very peculiar personalities and like very specific characteristics, so they're interesting to follow. It's just that I didn't, it makes you like not really root for anyone at any point. That's what, like, the effect that it had on me.
As for me, you know, the characters, I didn't feel like having that many of them took anything away in terms of like, oh, I wanted to have a protagonist or an antagonist. I was saying earlier there's no antagonist, but you could kind of put the old man as the antagonist for a lot of...
you could also put Lad as the antagonist to at least some of the characters, or to some part of the story.
But as a watcher, though, because you also see stuff from his point of view a lot, sometimes I was kind of rooting for him, you know?
Yeah, that's
even
true.
Though he's crazy, he's not
definitely.
So yeah, in terms of caring about them or wanting one of them to be the central element, that wasn't the case. But sometimes I did feel like, you know, there are so many of them that I don't remember you know?
Yeah, that's true. There are so many characters. Sometimes it gets difficult to follow everyone, especially because most of them are only introduced like for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's only 16 episodes and we're talking like tens of characters, you know.
And they all get their name in the intro. I feel like they knew that people would be confused, so every intro, you know, you have to refamiliarize yourself with who's who. But like some of the Gondor family, for example, you know, I remembered Luck, but his two brothers, sometimes I'd see them and I was like, oh, is that the other brother? Like, I don't remember.
I'm not sure exactly. I know what you mean. But I feel like as you watch the episode and as they tell the story, even if sometimes I'm like, oh, who was this guy? The story still makes sense. And by the end you realize, like, oh, it's that guy from that thing. Like, you know, it's because it's well connected.
Because what that brings is also at the end, the big reveal that the demon was there all along with them. For a second, I was like, wait, who was that guy? You know, because they're like, oh, it's this guy. He's been there all along. I remembered seeing him, and after thinking about it, seeing him in the background a lot, or walking around.
I didn't even remember that.
He makes a comment at the end of episode 13 of like, oh, he knew that they were drinking the elixir, but he didn't stop them. And so I guess that was the hint that, oh, this guy knows something.
Okay, I see.
But other than that, I was like, he never really talked that much. So, you know, maybe the reveal would have had more impact if he was someone...
Like if you were more active into the story. I guess, but that's his character, you know.
Yeah, he's just an observer.
Yeah.
And that's what he was saying on the ship too. Yeah, like he just likes looking from above at what they're doing with the power they've been given. But yeah, that's interesting. Now, we couldn't stop talking about the characters without talking about Isaac and Miria, which really are the centerpiece of this whole anime.
Yeah, they're like, it's insane. I like that they thought to put these characters that I feel like they balance out some of the more serious stuff that happen, you know. They're so like playfully unaware of everything that's going on, including the fact that they had become immortal. Like it's hilarious, you know. Like
whenever there's something heavy happening, the two of them come in and you're like, oh, and you like them, you know, contrary
Yeah.
to most other characters where you're like, do I like Rail Tracer or do I hate him? I'm not sure. Well, not hate him, but like, do I feel like he's the bad guy or not? With Isaac and Miria, there's no question, you know, even
Yeah.
though they're robbers, they're always trying to be good to everyone around them, even the villains,
Yeah.
the supposed villains.
Right.
So yeah, I really like them. But in terms of motivation, we have so many characters and so many different motivations to keep track of.
I feel like the most interesting one is like from the point of view like the motivation is to meet the Rail Tracer because really it doesn't feel like he has other motivation than he just enjoys killing, which you would
I feel like
think
that was
would-
more Lad though, because Lad didn't give
yeah.
much of an excuse for why he's killing, except I like killing people
Yeah, that's
who
true,
don't
but I
think
feel
they
like
lie.
Lad has more of like a story, of a backstory, rather than
But Rail Tracer was saying he's only killing like people who deserves it, you know.
yeah, but it feels like he's doing it, like it feels like he's enjoying it
Oh,
too
he's
much.
definitely
He's
enjoying
definitely
doing-
enjoying
yeah.
it too much. So it kind of made me feel like I don't know if I would like this character at all. But then at the end, you get his own story.
Yeah, with the last
which-
three episodes, it totally shifts his character.
And at the end, I'm like, oh no, I want things to end up well for him. Like
Yeah.
he's nice. Actually, he's a nice killer.
Uh-huh.
You know. So I really like that. You know, I really like the way this this shift in his. Well, it's not even a shift because his character doesn't change much.
Yeah,
It's just that
it's just-
you get to see more of him.
Exactly. And even Rachel, when she's having a dinner with him, she's like, oh, you're human too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of get that same feeling. So yeah, before we end this video,
Yeah.
this is an anime, so there's a lot of course, animation. What did you think of the animation?
It was great.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this art style.
Mm.
Like, and I feel I don't know many anime like this, like more recent. I feel like it resembles a lot of the animes from like the 90s, late 90s to early 2000s.
You think? Because watching it, you even asked like, when is this from? And I was like, I don't know, but it feels like 2008. To me, it felt
Yeah,
like
yeah.
mid to late 2000.
Yeah. But late, maybe. But that's what I was saying, like late 90s and 2000s. But I mean, we're in 2020 now, like,
Yeah,
you know.
that was a while ago. But
Yeah.
it reminds me a lot of the style and the subject matter, of course. Full Metal Alchemist, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely. And more than that, I like the colors, the whole vibe of the atmosphere of the whole anime. You
Mhm.
know, I like how even when there are events, because a lot of it happens at nighttime, right?
Yeah.
But even when there are shots like in the light, like in the daytime, you still feel that like somberness, you know, like lurking over everything. I don't know. You get that like happiness just from the art style.
I think that they chose the perfect time period to go with that art style.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because even when you see Isaac and Miria in the future in 2001, it kind of doesn't mesh as well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're in the 1930s, like it's perfect.
Yeah.
The combination.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, beautiful anime, great story, great characters. This was a great choice for
Oh my
one
god,
of our
yes, it
101.
was great. I
Yeah.
really liked it.
So once again, we loved it. This is the second anime we finished, but this is our fifth anime. And yeah, next time we might be doing a review, a reaction for the sixth anime. Who knows?
Who knows?
And you guys will be there, hopefully, to watch that if you want, and if you if you wish to subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever that video
Notification bell.
drops. Like this video if you did. Comment in the comment section below. Have you ever seen Baccano? What did you think of it?
I mean, if you watched it, I hope you saw it, because we just spoiled it.
Exactly, we spoiled everything. If you've gotten to that moment and you haven't seen it. But yeah, tell us in the comment section below and have a nice day.
Bye bye!